All right, let's take a look at this best of three between Michu and Flower. So this is in my grand finals tournament. It looks like we have a Vampire Counts against Slaanesh matchup. So this should be pretty fun. Now, I can already guess the results of this best of three just because of how the replays were sent. So I'm going to try something a little different today, and we're going to focus mostly on the pure tactical play. I kind of just want to judge the players, so it'll be less hype casting, more just general analysis of the game. I will say double a goose versus Slaanesh is very interesting because they can kill off the big scary single entities like Nakari. Vampire counts are pushing up. Slaanesh is going to skirmish. And okay, this is good. So Slaanesh going over. They're kind of picking off the flanks of the counts and avoiding their main strength, which is their blobbing potential. Lord Snipe is going on, and I guess, you know what, let's focus this on the Slaanesh perspective, because I think this is Slaanesh's game. This is kind of Slaanesh's game to lose, or at least it's their game to win. They have the crazy mobility. They can get free picks like this. And Nakari just needs to not get sniped by these lords. That's realistically the only thing that needs to happen, because every kill heals Nakari by like 1,000,000 HP. So let's see if the Crypt Horrors die. Nakari, oh, actually Crypt Ghoul summon. You know, Nakari can actually heal off of these guys when they time out. That's actually a pretty big play that they can make. I'm noticing a lot of infantry summons, by the way. Not sure how I feel about the devotees, because they can actually get run down by these zombos, but honestly, they're more melee infantry than ranged. But yeah, I feel like these Crypt Horrors really need to die. I guess the Horsemen aren't really able to get on top of them. They kind of need to swing over here and get their shots in, but a lot of the shots are going wide. Oh my goodness, was that a double scab scratch? Jeez, that did a lot of damage. But anyways, yeah, essentially Slaanesh, they want to keep on rotating and get picks. So a little bit of idling over here. If these units could just teleport on top of these guys, that'd just be an insta-kill of these two zombies. But Slaanesh is maneuvering towards this edge of the map, kind of put him out of position. It's going to sound like I'm judging the players a lot, because I do play a lot of Slaanesh. And I've actually played this matchup a few times. But I'd be happy if they surprise me. And yeah, we are seeing that rotation now. Big zombie pick. There's basically nothing that can defend these guys outside of the two lords, or the two terrorgeists. So what the horsemen can do, they can park kind of along here, screen them off, and then all these guys get murdered. Though I guess Flower doesn't feel the need to get that done. They're instead just going to be... Yeah, they're instead just going to be going for a fight here. I feel like this is a little risky. Nakari's already so low. They really need that heal too. So you kind of have to stick around and try and kill a unit, because you're really on the timer. If Nakari can't get a kill and the big heal sometime soon, they're just going to die because of attrition. So I'm a little worried. Maybe going for the White King snipe. That's going to take a little bit though. White Kings are extremely hard to kill. These guys are crazy. The melee defense values are, yeah, 43 even when tired. Nakari even took some friendly fire damage. This is not good. I think Slaanesh really much though needs to rotate over here. Nakari's getting low. How many more Spirit Leeches before death? We're looking at like 3 more Spirit Leeches. And then Nakari's dead. Not to mention some breath attacks and such can come down. Pavane does hit the goose though, but it doesn't really do much because there's no follow-up. Horsemen aren't really shadowing the unit over there. And the devotees are getting harassed too. This is a little sketchy. First unit dies near Nakari though. Wait, did it not trigger the heal? Another one dies, but Nakari wasn't close enough. What's the range on this? 30 meters. It's fairly short. Oh my goodness. We just missed 2 Nakari heals. It's okay though. As long as this skeleton unit dies near Nakari, it should be fine. And okay, there we go. Skeleton completely dies. Nakari gets a heal. Okay. Nakari is safe. Nobody panic. Jeez, Mega Breath attack though. Lord can't kill Nakari though, and that's going to be a fascination now on this Terrorgeist. That means the horsemen can bully them, but it looks like they're screening for Nakari instead. That's fine. Although I feel like with the Terror Goose landed, you could have actually maybe gone a murderage there. Counts have all the points, but this doesn't matter very much because they have so few tickets, and they need to get to 1,500. That's like in what, 7 minutes from now? That's a really long time. The counts are basically going to get army wiped as long as Slaanesh plays this out properly. So there's not a lot of like burst damage on these units. We're kind of seeing fighting along all fronts. I really want to see that kind of focus fire. The yeah, just defeat in detail 24/7. That is all that Slaanesh does all the time. That's how you utilize their speed. But Michu's been doing good. You know, keeping these big single entities alive. I will say there's probably a few opportunities where maybe some units can get picked off, but they've been doing a good job keeping up the pressure. Getting all the points is nice. Of course, the Lord sniping is going well. If Nakari can't get the kills, it's just done for. Ooh, is that an overcast too? Oh, okay, Nakari is the one pervading the... Oh no, that was slicing shards. Okay, well that's still pretty high. Would love to see a follow-up punch to try and route these guys off and get the crumbling going. Otherwise, this unholy lodestone is just going to heal them. This thing is just passive healing. And it does stabilize them. Oh, and another breath attack on Nakari. Yo, if Nakari dies here, that's just unfortunate, man. Yeah, just not being able to get the picks. I think that's basically gonna get it done. Yeah, I think Nakari's just gonna die. No, the heal. Okay, second landing from the goose surely does it. Okay, wait, this could actually be a huge play. If these horsemen pull back, they can get so much damage on these guys while they try to kill Nakari. Nakari can just heal. Yeah, there it is. Horsemen pull back. Nakari comes in. Tries to kill the goose. If the goose dies, Nakari gets another heal. We're looking at 700 HP. 100 and the crumbling. And Nakari's gonna die. Very unfortunate. I feel like, oh man, I feel like they should have lived, man. I feel like they should have lived. I'm too much of a Slaanesh main to be watching this game, aren't I? Way too much of a Slaanesh main, but well played by Michu though. Like, this is generally a very bad matchup for counts, I feel, if Slaanesh plays it correctly. And Michu basically played to their out, right? There weren't that many misplays being made by Flower at all. But them just not being fully on point with getting the Nakari heals was punished by the Lord sniping. Love to see it. At this point, I don't think Slaanesh can come back. Yep. Seems like the players feel that way too. And yeah, good stuff. Big value on these guys. Nakari, it's less than 700 value. That's disappointing. No big Pavane plays either. None of, you know, they were kind of used to stop the Terrorgeist for like a few seconds, but yeah, very unfortunate. Well played to meet you though. And that's going to bring us to game number 2. All right. And you may have noticed why I could predict who is going to be winning this. And that's because the green side is now Flower. So that means that this replay was recorded by Flower. The previous replay was recorded by Michu. But without tension, there is still tactics. Let's actually look at this from the POV of Flower again, since I can assume they managed to win this unless the players have absolutely bamboozled me. And we can take a look at some sick plays. The question is, how does Vampire Coast beat Chaos Dwarves? That's essentially what we're looking at here. How does Flower do it? They got a bunch of zombies, they have some doggos. Oh my goodness, the massacre of the doggos though. Scurvy dogs taking a bunch of damage. Good for securing the points early on though, but you can see this one didn't actually do anything because the point fell. So that was kind of just free damage. But an interesting thing is that despite a pretty hefty loss at the beginning, this apparently still goes the way of Flower, which means that the dogs are not an important part of the win condition here. They're trading out for some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders. That was an absolutely terrible trade for the Wolf Riders. And, oh, there you go, big route. A little bit of back and forth. Archers are going to do a little bit of damage to the doggos. It's just kind of skirmishing right now, while both players kind of just posture up. This does give the ticket advantage to Flower, by the way, which is always very nice. Chaos Dwarves are a faction that can pretty easily retake points though, so this is still going to mostly come down to value. And it's just a massive loss of dogs. That's kind of crazy. For a little bit of chip damage on the Hobgoblins, this is really bad. Oops. I'd say the early game is not going great for Coast at all. Oh my goodness. That's like 1,500 gold worth of dogs. Okay, so Flower has some crazy plays coming up. Just based off of that, I feel like Coast is extremely far behind right now. Chaos Dwarf composition is not bad either. They have lots of archers, they have Kadai. All that's really good at clearing the zombies. They have anti-air with the skirmishers to kill these guys. Maybe the players bamboozled me, I don't know. This seems terrible for Coast. Unless Michu misplays severely and they just like don't capture the points, but all they really gotta do is just push in over here. They can even just ignore the flyers and they'll be fine. I guess it could be the Haunters that get it done though. Look at these guys. So they're big scary single entities. They have healing, they slow units. And there's not much in the Chaos Dwarf army that can actually kill them. So maybe that's it? Maybe, you know, on all other fronts, they'll do pretty bad, but if there's just two unkillable single entities, what's Chaos Dwarves gonna do? Well, what are they gonna do? I guess they're gonna cycle charge with the Sorcerer Prophet. He gets some massive damage. Kadai coming in over here. Getting some big deeps to secure this point. It might not be a great trade, though, because there are actually a lot of handgun bats here. Would have loved to see some more infantry support to take this point. And that's going to be a nice pickup for Flower. Moringles have taken massive damage, though. Crab Fleet Admiral also not doing especially well. I still don't know how this... I still don't know what goes on. Is there a throw? This is, I would say, aside from the Kadai taking a lot of damage, this is an exquisite position for the Chaos Dwarves. Good pickup, though. Salt Lord Scuttlers. Massive damage to the Hobgoblins. They didn't lose many entities, though, so they'll just rally, and with the skirmishers warding these guys off, it's still good. Bats are going to get harassed. We have more skirmishers, all right. Honestly, Chaos Dwarves are kind of doing great here. There's the capture. And they only need 2 points to win. Kadai are dead, though. And that does leave open a couple opportunities for the Coast side. They can summon in units that would normally die to Kadai. Like, I don't know, let's say Depth Guard. That would actually be sick. If suddenly a bunch of Depth Guard just showed up and just massacred all this infantry. That would be a pretty nice play. Sorcerer Prophet overextending a little bit. Ah, he really wants to burning head the artillery. That's nice and all, but this is actually a huge misplay from Michu. Sorcerer Prophet, if you look at the overall results of the trade, yes, the mortars are probably going to die, but you lose out on one of your main single entities that can bully the Moringles. They don't heal either, or I guess they do have the Chalice of Blood and Darkness. So if spells are cast, then they'll heal, but most of these spells can be damage spells. And this gives a huge single entity advantage for the Coast. Now, what do you do with the single entity advantage? At this point, Flower is probably feeling much, much better. Yes, both mortars are down, but they're not essential to the win condition. Because it's really just these archers that need to die. When you don't have any amount of single entity punish, you can just run these guys into the backfield, cause massive disruption, and then shut down the enemy's win condition. You gotta be a little careful at points, like they can't just dive the death streak. But yeah, the overall support these guys can give is quite immense. Bats are dying though. Getting hit by the withering, kind of a crazy idea. Mortars are dead. Just Carronade gets summoned in though. Second artillery piece. And yeah, you can see these guys are just problematic, right? Now, if there was a sorcerer prophet here cycle charging them, that'd be different. Maybe just burning head the guns that are there to shoot them up. But yeah, this is looking positively bad. Yeah, you can see he's playing a lot more cautious now that he's at basically no HP. I'd love to see some gazes of Nagash on him too. That would just snipe him. Yeah, they have some spell resist and some missile resist, but that's not going to save them. They're low enough where Gaze of Nagash is still dreadful. And the Vampire Coast, look at that. Playing so flagrantly with these Morngul Haunters. Just diving straight in, pulling away. They don't care. These guys are quite sturdy. Pretty good missile resist, but also healing on top of it. They don't have to be too careful about disrupting these units. Some more Kadai get summoned, but they're not going to be perfect versus the guns. And I think that's gonna put the Chaos Dwarves in a pretty rough position. They have no real way of shutting down these guns now, outside of archers. But there's nary an archer in sight. Most of them have actually been routed. I will say, if this Kadai summon was archers instead, that might have actually still won it for the Chaos Dwarves. It's kind of hard to say. But the gun lines are being positioned well. The single entities are being conserved too. Actually, oh, nice. Big invocation of Nahek. Playing to their strengths to make sure that these guys will stick around into the late game. Because this is the most problematic unit for the Chaos Dwarves. I don't think Kadai will do very well against them, especially with gun support either. So there's still no real solution. And anytime Chaos Dwarves try to push into this point, it's just going to be held by the single entity squad. Their lord is suffering. I believe they did not get the heal from that invocation of Nahek because they were too far away. And yeah, the Kadai just getting massacred. I think that's basically it for the Chaos Dwarves. Unless their death streaks manage to snipe these guys off, this is just looking like a disaster situation. Absolute disaster. Another 1,500 gold, this time on the Chaos Dwarf side. Kadai again blasted by the deck droppers. I will say Flower is doing very well, positioning the deck droppers so that they do not get harassed by these skirmishers, like the bomber squad. And they're going to pay for themselves immensely. Skirmishers are not going to punch through the super high armor of this fleet admiral. And the Chaos Dwarves still have a big problem. How are they going to deal with the double Moringles? Look at these guys. Such a big problem. Forcing the skirmishers off so that this point doesn't get secured. Now, one of them does take a pretty nasty volley from the Infernal Guard. They do have the DPS and fast missiles to get the damage on them. So maybe Chaos Dwarves can do a slow push. Maybe they can just walk these guys up to secure the point, blast anything that's trying to hold it, and then use their infantry scraps to actually get it. But Coast is starting to spam zombies now. These zombies are very good at holding this point, and Infernal Guard cannot clear them very quickly. These archers are too beat up to do much damage either. Over on the other side of the map, dwarf units are just being held up by the waves of undead. And Flower just needs to buy time, really. They just need to buy time. I don't think either side is going to be trading super crazily. By the looks of it, trading is overall quite slow right now because the army sizes are really small. Good burning head, but there's nothing that's going to be a power shift to take this point, yeah. Although Michu does have like almost 2,000 supplies. What are they gonna summon? Are they saving up for something crazy? Are we gonna see a Kadai Destroyer or something? Because if they did have a Kadai Destroyer in the back pocket, that would have... Well, it probably would have died to the handguns, let's be real, but... I don't know, we'll see. Man, look at the Moringles, though. They're actually just straight up diving the Infernal Guard. One gets healed. He is on fire, so that's half healing, which is actually quite the mitigation. But shutting down these range units basically means that there's no more pushing power over here. Depth Guard, Supreme Anti-Infantry Vampire Infantry. They're going to be rushing in to clear off this point. So this is very well secured. There's nothing that can throw off the Depth Guard. And in a game of counters, Flower's going to win it. Another Kadai gets summoned, but there's still anti-Kadai tech over here on point number 1. Lord does die though, but yeah. I'm pretty sure Chaos Dwarfs are just not... They're just not bringing in the works to get this point. Look at that. Kadai just being blasted into oblivion. And that was most of their money too. Enemy Lord dies. Yeah, it's... Ain't nothing. Ain't nothing. Some skirmishers get brought in, but we already have zombies here. GG. Well played. So that's going to be Flower taking the win as expected. I think Chaos Dwarves... I don't know if this is actually even a good matchup for them. They really have to get work done with Hobgoblins. It was nice killing off the Mortars who are countering the Hobgoblins, but they already died before they could get value. Very unfortunate for the Gobos. Had it gone the other way and the Lord took a lot of damage, but the Goblins were still alive and getting loads of deeps, I think we'd have a different story. The Death Shriek certainly got a lot of value too, but the map wasn't perfect for it. But yeah, Kos is a very strong, you know, they have some very strong threats. And you kind of have to deal with them individually. So well played to Flower. On to game number 3. All right, and game number 3. Notably, Flower is still the green player. They're going to be up against Michu. It's going to be Dark Elves versus Norska. So Norska is a very strong faction right now. Michu's gone for the max infantry, and Flower has gone for Kite. So what is the win condition of Kite? Well, basically, you don't go for the points early on. You value trade. Pull the Norskins into your backfield. You clear them out with your superior positioning, because you can summon basically right on top of them. And once they're out of units, you go ahead and capture the points. So kind of the killing phase is the first 10 minutes. And that basically puts a timer on Flower to clear this army in time. Now that army could just camp in the tree, so that's why they're moving up to secure these points, just to get the fighting started. If the Norskins build up too much, then it can get harder to clear them out. So that's something very important to note. And they're just going to be pushing up onto these hero points. Carrots are being very aggressive, by the way, these Scourge Runners. It's not an efficient trade, but it's good for just clearing out units as fast as you can. Right? They just want to get their units going so that this army takes damage. Now, you don't want to be taking too much damage yourself. Oh, some friendly fire on the Scourge Runner too. But as long as the Scourge Runners don't lose too many entities, it should still be fine. That's a lot of damage though. Okay. A little scary, but the Coursers are kiting Norska very effectively. A lot of these units are actually not shielded. Actually, are none of them shielded? That's crazy. This Norska build has no fear of Kite, which is kind of absurd. Great Shaman has Buna, but there's nothing really worth Bunaing right now. And Lokir's going in for the kill. Lokir with a big attack on the Shaman. Now, he doesn't have that much HP. But he's also not too expensive, so he can be resummoned. It's still not that efficient HP-wise, HP to gold-wise. So if you can get the kill, it's worth. But you probably shouldn't be chasing him like crazy. Even if you can eventually kill him. I think people generally overrate Lord Snipes. And Flower seems to know what they're doing. Marauder Bearmen getting caught out. Charged by some Witch Elves over here. They're just going to get mopped up, and that's a very nice early pick, but the timer has started. And the Norskins have the triple cap, so now they need to actually hold for as long as possible so that they can win on tickets, because there ain't no way they're ever going to trade unless the Dark Elves rush into melee. And the only reason they do that is to try and secure these points. Another Berserker has overextended, though. This one over here is slightly overextended. This is going to result in a lot of damage for units that would love to be fighting on the points in the late game. Here come the chariots. Actually, very nice chariot charge. Love to see it. And Lokir too, also getting in here. It's going to be a bad time for those Norskins indeed. Siren of Red Ruin is getting a lot of value. Let's take a look. Yeah, already at 600 at this pace. 6 minutes in, they'll be at 1200, basically paying for themselves. And another unit getting debated, man. These Corsairs are setting up these Witch Elves like no tomorrow. So they are going to get hit by the Riders. It's still a very nice fight for them. Buna gets cast on them. That's nice for the Norskins, even though it's technically not an amazing value trade generally. In this specific circumstance where Norska is not going to value trade no matter what, this is basically the best that they can get. Killing off the unit, saving the worshippers of the Crow, and hopefully stalling out the Dark Elves a little bit. Because if they can get even partially even trades, that really sets the Dark Elves back. They need all their units to be healthy if they want to uptrade the Norskins into clearing them out. But, oh my gosh, did Norska not capture a 0.3? Did I miss that? I thought they got the triple cap. That's disastrous. So Norska's actually going to be... Oh my goodness, they're actually going to be quite severely down on tickets. This is really bad for Norska. If this game comes down to the wire and the Norskins get like 1,300 tickets by the end of the game, this probably means that this misplay might have just lost it for them. That's very, very bad. We'll see though. Dark Elves might clear them out before then, and maybe it doesn't matter. I will say this is looking pretty bad. They brought in the Trolls, who are usually pretty good versus Kite, but that's only when you have that huge army to defend their flanks. Now that everything's kind of in shambles, these Trolls don't have the staying power. Some spears getting hit up too. Buna lands on the Cold One Knights, which is very cost efficient. Norska's making some plays, and they're keeping the value trading quite close, but their formation's a little too torn apart right now. There's just not a lot of units left on the battlefield, and the Dark Elves are not even on much of a timer because they can easily secure this point. They held on to this one for an absurd amount of time. Though, if they do kill a Doomfire Warlock here, that's a fairly nice pick, but... yeah, I believe the Dark Elves are just going to overwhelm here. There's not really a whole lot going on. Medusa's just clearing up the rest of them. Though, Trolls rallying over here is going to stall for a little bit. That's what I'm saying though, right? Like the Dark Elves got like 100 free tickets. Norska could have been at 650. I will say Dark Elves took a lot of damage in those engagements. Doomfire Warlocks did survive, but... there's been some nice pickings, especially the Bunas. I think the Bunas have been pretty good. Dark Rider gets summoned in. Now, Dark Elves do have their Murderous Prowess proc. That makes them extremely good at fighting for the first few seconds while they summoned in, like a minute and a half. And that's going to be triggering for these Dark Riders, making them very good at clearing off these Norscan Ice Trolls. That's going to be about a 1,000 gold pickup for the Dark Elves. And yeah, with Lokir coming in, I think it's going to be a mass murderage. Flaming Sword giving fire damage to make them even more effective versus the Trolls. Helping Lokir out off the Great Shaman too. Oh, big dashing attack on the Great Shaman, and he's basically gone. Completely shattered. And okay, I think that's basically going to end it. Norska trying to go for the point hold here, but just getting absolutely crumped by Lokir. Meanwhile, on the far side, they're rapidly running out of units. And yeah, I think the Norskins, they might have even played a little too wide. That really, because this is a kite build for the Dark Elves, they kind of just got flanks 24/7. A lot of units were overextending. And that led to a very rapid loss of units for Norska. And with the double cap from the Dark Elves, they have forever. They have actually just years to secure this last point. Barring a catastrophic misplay, there's no way Dark Elves can really lose this. They're already up in value, so they just need to keep value trading. And they don't need to rush for this point. We're talking like another 8 minutes. You know, another like 8-10 minutes before they really need to worry about tickets here. Meanwhile, the Medusa's still farming value in the far distance. Getting big hits in on those, what are those? Marauder champions. And even now, casually taking the point. They're not really sacrificing too much by taking this. Although I will say there are a few fights that are kind of going slightly rough for the Dark Elves. But the problem is low gear. Like, low gear and single entities in general are really good at getting value. The problem most of the time is that they take a while to get that value. But time is on the side of the Dark Elves, so they can just leverage this. It's very similar to the last game, actually, with the Mourngulls, where Michu just doesn't really have a counter to the big single entities. Usually you want multiple single entities of your own, preferably cheaper so that you're not spending as much on them, but they can ward off the bigger guys by countercharging. You can have Marauder Horsemen to maybe try and shoot Lokir to death, but at this point in the game they can't really do much. It's just going to be more spears summoned in, but ain't no way those spears are gonna cook. Dragon Lokir is gonna be running off these Marauders, and I think this is a done deal. We'll just X4 through it. There's basically nothing left for the Norskins. Lord gets resummoned, but he's just a Buna caster. Yeah, he's just gonna kill some cavalry, but the win condition for the Dark Elves is too strong. Lokir is in an amazing position to carry out the rest of this game. Yeah, you can see mass terror routes, picking off whichever units get summoned, and that's going to be GG. Nice match in the losers bracket. Flower does advance. Lokir getting about 2,000 value. Medusa also getting lots of value. But really, the Corsairs just crushed it. Corsairs are exceptional versus mass infantry builds. Now, if they're shielded, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but even then, Norska can't spam pure shields, so you'll always have some units to pick apart. There were some skin wolves, but these guys weren't really used too much, and by the time they did arrive, they didn't really have the support. I will say if Norska wants to win this, they can play a little bit more cagey. I think they should definitely go for normal Bearmen with shields. They should play for 2 points early on and then slowly push on to the 3rd point once it's safe to do so. If you're going for the triple cap, you usually want to be rushing down the enemy, I find. That's an alternative that can be attempted. But with the play from the Dark Elves, it was going to be pretty hard generally. This is just some solid Dark Elf kite. It's on Michu's main faction too, the Dark Elves, or Flower's main faction too. So you'll love to see it. GG's, well played to the players. And Flower will be moving on upwards in the losers bracket.